All right, welcome. Today's video is going to go over the new Simms G3 BOA wading boot. Been using it a little bit over a year in a variety of different terrain and environments, including snow. So if you want to see that, keep watching. Also, this video is going to go over quite a few different considerations that I like to look at when selecting wading boots, even if you're not in the market for a Simms wading boot. So make sure you keep watching. I'm going to step right into this review. All right, so to start off with, I am not historically a huge fan of the BOA system. What a BOA system is usually like a cable lace system that will be, it's kind of like a ratchet system that will use a knob. BOA, I'd say, is the most prominent for that. And they're their own company, and you see them on hiking shoes and everywhere else. Simms uses it on this boot and some other boots as well. To me, a lot of my issues that I've had with the BOA system is I'd either be, say to get it secure around my ankle, I'd have to really tighten it up, and I'd have to walk, tighten it again, walk, tighten it again. And then by that time, the whole forefoot area, at least for me, would have too much pressure on there, like it would actually cause a borderline pain. I'd say heavy discomfort in order to get the ankle locked down. Or if I wanted the ankle to be comfortable, maybe down here would be a little bit loose or vice versa, whatever. But with this boot, I have not had that issue. So I did have a little bit of reservations using the boot, but using it for a little bit over a year through like some field testing, I really do like that. I don't have any sort of discomfort on the top of the foot. That could be due to the padding on the tongue, maybe how the Simms has their lacing system spaced out, or just the materials. Good thing with that BOA system is if you fish in cold weather like me a lot of times, steelhead fishing or whatever, being able to just pop that and just open up your boots instead of messing around with like freezing cold laces and your hands are already cold as it is, it makes that process a lot better. And then as far as tightening up, for me, I usually kind of just lace them up a little bit like you would for shoes, like this, just to get all that material up, not like super hard. And then I just, I'll ratchet down that material. And then once I get that secured up, I just take a few steps, tighten them again, and then I put my gravel guards down and I'm good to go. So with the BOA system and the lacing, I do really like that. It does provide a good lockdown without having pressure points, and it's really secure. For me, I played a lot of basketball over the years, and I have some weak ankles, and for me, I found that the ankle support was really good, and that's part of the boot, the rest of the boot that'll go into, but a big part of that is the lacing system. So moving into the rest of the boot, most of the upper is a leather material. Leather has been used in hiking boots and other high abrasive footwear, work boots too, for a long time. So I'll have no issues with long-term durability. Like I said, it's been a year, so it's not a terribly long time, especially for a top-of-the-line boot. Like the previous generation, a lot of people were reporting 10 to 15 years out of those, those previous generation G3 boots. To supplement that leather, basically the whole bottom half of the boot is has a layer of rubber on there, and with the seams being away from the flex point of the boot, which is a really big wear point. A lot of boots, they might come with Vibram soles or very durable soles, but that doesn't mean anything if the rest of the boot falls apart. So Simms being able to see that those move those any sort of seams that there may be. There's not that many seams in the boot. But any sort of seams to move back away from that wear point, which I found that even flexing the boot, it hasn't caused any sort of wear at all. Kind of going into that too is that the boot has a little bit of a camber up here. So what that does, when you're going to walk and you flex your boot forward, it kind of rocks the boot forward. So that way you're not causing it as much. You don't have to bend through that hard sole and midsole and the uppers in order to be able to walk forward. So that's gonna aid in the long-term durability of the upper, but also be able to kind of give you all the perks of having a nice heavy-duty sturdy boot without having to put all that flex and wear and tear on the boot. So for me, other than some just ever so minor creasing along the top, which is just going to be normal through your break-in period, there's no sign of wear on the upper for me. The sole is Simms lists it as the Vibram Idrogrip, which is kind of like a hybrid rubber. It feels in hand, like if you just kind of feel it and try to flex it, like a harder Vibram sole, like you'd see, say in some heavy-duty work boots or whatever else, which usually that means slippery grip. You're kind of always going to compromise grip. Well, not always, but most times you're compromising grip to durability. It's always just like a factor there. But with the Idrogrip, I haven't felt unstable walking in clay, on wet rocks, or even with algae, of course, sand, cedar swamps, which that could be its own little unique mess as it is. I haven't had any sort of issues with the durability or the grip. The sole is pretty solid, even with it has a solid foam midsole too, so it's not going to give you that squishy bounce feeling like you would for the flyweight access wading boot that I wear a lot, but it's not uncomfortable. I don't feel my knees or joints or anything like that hurting after a long day in these boots. There's a lot of times you're walking on softer surfaces anyway. But as far as the sole, talking about the sole, there's very minimal wear. Get some close-ups on that, just so you can see that there's you can see that there's a couple little areas where just me normally walking, but I think this sole is going to last me for a long time. And Simms does have a resoling option. I've never used that, so I don't know what that process is. I imagine it'd be kind of like a warranty. You send them in, maybe there's a small fee, and then you're able to get your boot resoled. So that just goes into like if the upper is lasting that long that you get your sole redone, it's definitely going to be worth it, because then you can just prolong that cost savings of having an upper level boot. Paying that premium price up front, you're able to get some more life out of them. As far as the grip goes on there, I really do. I always found it challenging when you're in clay surfaces, like a lot of the swamps, cedar swamps and everything like that around me. It always releases off there because it's enough moisture. But clay that kind of gets built up. Think of like your truck tires or anything like that. It gets caught in the treads, and then you're just slipping, right? But with how this tread is, it's always released clay for me. I was over in Maryland fishing the Gunpowder River. I don't know if you've ever fished that, but there are some sections that are clay, or they pack in. It becomes really, really slippery. The lug pattern has done a really good job of releasing that mud. So basically every single time you're climbing up the bank, it's like a fresh step. It's not like you're slipping on the mud and then you're trying to crawl up like a bear and you're full of clay and you just make a mess of yourself. But I haven't had that happen with me. One thing you will notice just looking at this, that I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it does look like the tread pattern is like shallower than most. There are a couple different layers of tread on there, as well as there's these itty bitty weird little spikes that aren't going to make contact with the immediate ground. Now that's gonna, I think what that does for me is it helps release that mud, I think, a little bit better, and it will give you that little like secondary level of grip, if that makes sense. Like you're on the initial surface, and then if there's like if there's like algae or whatever, it's going to help grip to that algae on the rock a little bit. I don't feel that these are exceptionally well for like really, really slippery surfaces like that, or even say on ice and snow. I felt that packed snow was pretty good with these boots. Ice is ice, unless you're digging into them with cleats, which I plan on doing with these boots. It's really hard to avoid slipping on. Well, I don't want to say slipping on ice, but you just have to be real careful. Some other things, drainage, that's a big thing, especially if you put on a lot of miles, you're kind of in and out of the water a lot. There are 3 drain holes on the inside, 3 drain holes on the outside of the boot, which it does a pretty good job of draining. I haven't felt that there's been a lot of water like staying in my boot more than a few steps, especially for like having a pretty, I'd say heavy duty build to it, as far as, not much for ventilation or like really lightweight materials. It does a really good job of draining. For me, I have a size 11 in this boot. It was kind of a oopsie on my part getting a size 11. I wear like a size 10.5 to an 11 street shoe, which I wear all the waders I tested with this is the large, long 12, 13 stocking foot. And even in this size 11 boot, I've been able to wear thin, medium, and heavy duty socks. So with the thin socks, I haven't had any sort of pinching or anything like that. Or with the heavy duty socks, like the real thick socks, I haven't felt my feet binding. It wasn't too tight. I was able to get my foot in and out of there just fine. So any range of foot like that is going to be fine. If you do have a little bit bigger feet or wider feet, definitely size up to a 12. But for me, even wearing a size 11, which usually I put on a size 12 wading boot, I haven't had an issue with fit. Yeah, so overall, for the about $330 price point, depending on where you shop and stuff, it's going to be a big hit up front. I'll say that. But for the durability and also the option to resole, if you're putting on a lot of fishing trips or a lot of miles, it's worth putting up the investment. Now, I wouldn't recommend something like this if you go out once or twice a year for, you know, however long. It's worth just getting something that's going to be more affordable, just because you're not really going to get the benefit out of a boot like this unless you're wearing them, you know, multiple days a year, and also if you're really hard on your gear, putting on a lot of miles up and down rocks, and you really need that durability. So that's something that I would look into. All right, so if you're interested in gear reviews like this, let me know. Also comment down below what else you want to know about this boot. It's hard for me to fit every possible thing into a video that's going to be consumable, so I will answer those questions. If I don't have the answers, I'll try to track down somebody that does.